Now for Proverbs 23, when thou sittest to eat with a ruler, consider diligently what is before thee, and put a knife to thy throat, if thou be a man given to appetite. In other words, control yourself. Be not desirous of his dainties, for they are deceitful meat. The implications of this deceitful meat is that it is not given out of friendship. And I do like Garrett's note on this. The rich do not give away their favors for free. They want something in return, and it is generally much more than what they have invested. One can lose one's own soul in the exchange. Verse 4, labor not to be rich, cease from thine own wisdom. Wilt thou set thine eyes upon that which is not? For riches certainly make themselves wings. They fly away as an eagle toward heaven. Now notice this top line, cease from thine own wisdom. In essence, your own understanding, which leans towards self and earthly prosperity. Your best life now? Joel Osteen wrote an entire book on this. Pretty much his entire ministry is about living your best life now. Verse 6, eat thou not the bread of him that hath an evil eye, neither desire thou his dainty meats, for as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Eat and drink, saith he to thee, but his heart is not with thee. In other words, if you know that a man is evil, his character has shown that he is evil over a time, then do not trust his kind words, because the morsel which thou hast eaten shalt thou vomit up, and lose thy sweet words. Meaning that if you put great trust in an evil man, knowing that he's evil, and him offering you food, and you ingest that food, then that goes for any deep interaction that you have with them, deep trust that you place within them. You'll have regret for it afterwards. Speak not in the ears of a fool, for he will despise the wisdom of thy words. I remember a few years ago, being a young Christian, I would debate these types, these fools, that they'll not regard any kind of wisdom, and they'll mock you. If you cast your pearls before swine, they'll trample them underfoot. And I used to do that all the time and get so caught up and get so drained mentally, emotionally into the debate. And it would be publicly, and I would be left just feeling so down and downtrodden. Avoid such. If they try to draw you into a dispute, just avoid them. Be nice to them. Even pray for them. Even truly love them. But don't argue with them. They'll not get it. Verse 10, remove not the old landmark, and enter not into the fields of the fatherless, for their Redeemer is mighty. He shall plead their cause with thee. This would have been against encroaching on a neighbor's land, trying to broaden your own estate by taking away certain landmarks. Verse 12, apply thine heart unto instruction, and thine ears to the words of knowledge. Withhold not correction from the child, for if thou beatest him with a rod, he shall not die. Now, once again, this is not to be taken in the hyper-literal sense. I know that a lot of people are against spanking. My family was not. They whooped me whenever I deserved it. I actually deserved every one of them. I actually deserved a lot more whoopings than I truly received. Thou shalt beat him with a rod, and shalt deliver his soul from hell. My son, if thine heart be wise, my heart shall rejoice, even mine. So this is just about, in the general sense, discipline your child. Never withhold discipline from them. Yea, my reins shall rejoice when thy lips speak right things, instead of cursing and blaspheming and all of these things that children do. Let not thine heart envy sinners, but be thou in the fear of the Lord all the day long. So once again, Scripture is very strong on this. Do not envy those godless people. Don't envy sinners. And Psalm 73 really gives greater detail about this. For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. They're prospering, and here I am in sadness, can barely pay bills, and they're getting all this money. They're able to, and all so many hours away. The life seems to be going so smoothly for them, and my car just broke down, and what's up? Until I went into the sanctuary of God, then understood I their end. Surely thou didst set them in slippery places. Thou castest them down into destruction. How are they brought into desolation as in a moment? They are utterly consumed with terrors. My friends, for the wicked and the godless, and those in whom hate God, they're living their only type of heaven that they're ever going to see. And perhaps it's a very merciful thing that God allows them a little bit of prosperity on this earth, because it all ends after this, and it gets much, much worse. Terrifying. For surely there is an end, and thine expectation shall not be cut off. The fact that you expect greater things after this life, that will not be cut off. You shall have that expectation be fulfilled. Hear thou, my son, and be wise, and guide thine heart in the way. Be not among wine-bibbers or drunks, among riotous eaters of flesh, gluttons. For the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty, and drowsiness shall clothe a man with rags. Hearken unto thy father that begat thee, and despise not thy mother when she is old. Buy the truth, and sell it not, also wisdom and instruction and understanding. The truth is here described under the three heads of wisdom, self-discipline, and understanding. All these are to be obtained from God, who gives to every man liberally, without money, and without price. Verse 24, the father of the righteous shall greatly rejoice, and he that begetteth a wise child shall have joy of him. Thy father and thy mother shall be glad, and she that bare thee shall rejoice. My son, give me thine heart, and let thine eyes observe my ways. It's a good note on being good examples to your children. You may think that they take no notice of what you say and what you do, but I remember as a child things that adults did, especially my parents, but things that all people around me did, and I would observe everyone. And you have to think that's the only world that a child knows. He doesn't know that there's so much more diversity out there and so many other paths to take and everything. All that he sees is what's before him. So do make sure you're good examples, and always keep in mind to practice that in which you preach. That's not just for teachers and preachers, mind you. That's for all people. So once again, the proverb is saying, look towards the good path, set your eyes on the good, for a whore is a deep ditch. Now this is a strong transition from 26, I'm aware of that, but for a whore is a deep ditch. If you turn your eyes to this side of the world, you're going to find this. And a strange woman is a narrow pit. She also lieth in wait for a prey, and increaseth the transgressors among men. And I totally agree with Pulpit on this. The verse indicates the seductive nature of the vice of unchastity, just giving everything over to the flesh, following your fleshly desires and lusts. How easy it is to be led into it, how difficult to rise from it. But this particular proverb also adds a little bit more to this warning. Those whom she seduces become in their turn seducers and untrustworthy in similar relations. You've heard the old phrase, once a cheater, always a cheater. Well, once that they begin to cheat with others and they draw them into cheating, then adultery just becomes a normal thing. They just all start to cheat, and it just becomes one huge mess of sin. Verse 29, who hath woe? Who hath sorrow? Who hath contentions? Who hath babbling? Who hath wounds without cause? Who hath redness of eyes? They that tarry long at the wine, they that go to seek mixed wine. Look not thou upon the wine when it is red, when it giveth his color in the cup, because it's so alluring, when it moveth itself aright. So now notice how Solomon is keeping up with where you should look and where you shouldn't look. He says, look towards the path of wisdom at the very beginning of this last few verses. But then he goes on and says, do not look towards the lewd women. Do not look towards the wine when it moveth itself aright like a woman. Now, once again, Scripture is not outright against drinking wine, which can make the heart glad, but against drinking to excess, where it causes you into further sin, which being drunk does. It will cause you to at least be tempted more and more by greater and greater sins. At the last, it biteth like a serpent and stingeth like an adder. Now notice verse 33, thine eyes shall behold strange women, and thine heart shall utter perverse things. Because it really loosens the tongue into all types of evils. Yea, thou shalt be as he that lieth down in the midst of the sea, or as he that lieth upon the top of a mast. Now, this is really wonderful figurative language right here. Just as Ellicott notes, as he that lieth down in the midst of the sea whenever you're drunk. Imagine lying down right in the middle of the sea. And so would inevitably be drowned if he trusted to its smooth, glassy appearance. Oh, it looks so alluring, but it really takes you down. And he also says, you're like he that lieth upon the top of a mast, whom every roll of the ship might hurl into the waves. The absolute insensibility of the drunkard to danger is here described. Now, verse 35 is speaking of the day after, whenever you have that horrible hangover and what people are saying, where did all these bruises come from and all of this? They have stricken me, shalt thou say, and I was not sick. They have beat me, and I felt it not. When shall I awake? I will seek it yet again, to go and get drunk again. And what the drunkard is actually telling himself is this. The drunkard thinks himself fortunate that though he was beaten, probably by another drunk man, probably got him on the ground and started, that's the way drunks are. Though he was beaten, he did not feel it. And though he drank himself to great excess, he did not perchance fall ill. He will therefore begin to drink again and start the whole shameful process anew.